My wife insisted I dismiss my assistant simply because she was too attractive. However, what she discovered in my office the following day made her regret everything. At 32, I never imagined sharing something like this online, but I need to unburden myself. My wife and I have been married for 6 years, generally content despite the usual highs and lows. I run a modest yet expanding architectural firm, which I built from the ground up after leaving a larger corporation. Success wasn't handed to me. I spent years working 70-hour weeks, sacrificing weekends and holidays while my wife supported me emotionally and financially during the difficult early days. 3 months ago, I brought in a new assistant, highly qualified with a business degree and experience managing offices for much larger firms. She was professional, efficient, and transformed our previously chaotic operations into a smooth-running system. For the first time in years, I could come home at reasonable hours instead of stumbling in past midnight. Last week, my wife unexpectedly dropped by the office to surprise me with lunch. She had never done this before, and I found the gesture thoughtful. I introduced her to my team, including my assistant. Everything appeared fine, though I noticed she was unusually quiet on the drive home. That night, while getting ready for bed, she suddenly blurted out, "I want you to fire your assistant." I was caught completely off guard. "What? Why?" "She's too pretty. I saw how she looks at you," she accused. I almost laughed, assuming she was joking, but the seriousness of her expression made it clear she wasn't. My assistant was nothing but professional, so much so that, despite my request to call me by my first name, she insisted on addressing me as sir. She kept our interactions strictly business. "That's absurd," I replied. "She's an exceptional employee who has significantly improved the efficiency of the business. I'm not firing someone over their appearance." My wife's expression hardened. "So you admit you find her attractive?" "That's not what I said. I'm saying her looks have no bearing on her job performance, which happens to be outstanding." The argument escalated. My wife insisted she had observed our interactions and detected undeniable chemistry. I tried reasoning with her, explaining that what she interpreted as attraction was nothing more than professional rapport, but she refused to listen. Finally, she snapped, "Either she goes or I do." She grabbed a pillow and stormed off to the guest room. I lay awake that night, staring at the ceiling, utterly baffled. My wife had never displayed this level of jealousy before. We had always trusted each other. Something didn't add up. The next morning, she left for work without a word. Wanting some clarity, I arrived at the office early to gather my thoughts. As I reviewed my assistant's work, organizing chaotic client files, implementing a streamlined scheduling system, I had an epiphany. My wife had never actually seen me in my professional environment. She had supported me from the sideline for years, but had never witnessed how I ran my business or interacted with my team. I sent her a text. "I understand your concerns. I'm not making any hasty decisions. But could you meet me at the office after work? There's something I want to show you." She responded with a simple thumbs-up emoji. That evening, around 6, she arrived. Most of the staff had already left, but my assistant remained, finishing up some paperwork. I saw my wife's jaw tighten the moment she spotted her. "Come into my office," I said gently. Closing the door behind her, I gestured to my desk, where I had laid out photographs of our projects over the past 5 years alongside financial statements detailing the company's growth. "Do you know what's different about the past 3 months?" I asked. She shrugged, clearly not in the mood for riddles. "For the first time, I'm not doing everything myself. Look at this calendar." I showed her my schedule before and after hiring my assistant. I used to work until midnight most days. Now I'm home for dinner. I'm not constantly exhausted or buried in stress. Before she could respond, I held up a hand. "One more thing." I pulled up security camera footage from the office, showing recordings of my assistant and me over the past week. In every clip, she maintained a professional distance, handed me documents without even the slightest physical contact, and spoke with the utmost professional respect. "This is what you saw," I said quietly. "This is our chemistry." She's simply good at her job, and I appreciate her for that. Nothing more. My wife remained silent, staring at the screen. I won't fire someone exceptional at their job over baseless jealousy. I finished. I pressed on, my voice calm but firm. I need to understand where this is coming from. This isn't like you. She sank into my office chair, the anger in her posture softening into uncertainty. I don't know, she admitted, exhaling shakily. When I saw her, something just clicked in my mind. She's stunning. She spends more time with you than I do. She supports you in ways I never could when it comes to your business. Realization dawned on me. Is that what this is about? You feel like you've been replaced? She averted her gaze, but the silence spoke volumes. For years you struggled, and I couldn't do much beyond offering moral support, she murmured. Then she walks in, and suddenly everything improves. I knelt in front of her, taking her hands gently. The only reason I could hire her in the first place was because of you. You stood by me when this company was just a dream. You believed in me when no one else did. She's handling schedules and paperwork. You built the foundation that made all of this possible. Her fingers brushed against her cheek as she wiped away a stray tear. I guess seeing her made me realize how disconnected I've become from this part of your life. I've never seen you in your element, as the boss. You carry yourself differently here, confident, assertive. And having someone like her at your side all the time, it got to me. Just then, a knock on the door broke the moment. My assistant peeked inside, oblivious to the tension in the room. Apologies for interrupting, sir, she said politely. I finished the Henderson portfolio and wanted to let you know I'm heading out. She then noticed my wife and offered a polite nod. Good evening, ma'am. I didn't realize you were here. To my surprise, my wife straightened her posture and gestured toward her. Actually, could you step in for a moment? I stiffened, unsure what she was about to say. My assistant stepped inside, keeping a professional distance. I owe you an apology, my wife said, catching both of us off guard. I made some unfair assumptions. Thank you for helping my husband grow his business and for allowing him to come home at reasonable hours. My assistant blinked in confusion, but quickly regained her composure. I'm just doing my job, ma'am. Your husband built this company through sheer dedication and hard work. I'm simply grateful to be part of it. After she left, my wife turned to me, her expression softer. I was wrong. I'm sorry. Later that night, as we lay in bed, we had a much deeper conversation. She confessed that she had been feeling distant from my work life, something that had always been such a core part of my identity. My assistant's presence had merely triggered deeper insecurities. I was scared that you'd find her more intriguing than me, she admitted. She understands your work in ways I never will. I shook my head. That's her job. But she doesn't know me like you do. She doesn't know how I take my coffee, or which side of the bed I prefer. She doesn't know my dreams or fears. We agreed to make some changes. I'd share more about my work, not just the challenges, but also the victories. She'd visit the office for lunch once a week, so she could feel more involved. Most importantly, we made a promise to talk about our insecurities before they spiraled into ultimatums. The next morning, my wife sent a small gift basket to the office, including a note apologizing to the team for monopolizing the boss's time. My assistant, ever professional, handled it gracefully. It's been a few weeks now, and our relationship has never been stronger. Surprisingly, my wife even asked my assistant for advice on launching her own business, something she had always dreamed about but never pursued. What could have been a crisis turned into an opportunity for growth. My wife saw that her fears were unfounded, and I realized I had been keeping my work life too separate from our marriage. Sometimes jealousy isn't about distrust. It's about the fear of being left behind. I almost lost an incredible employee and damaged my marriage over an assumption. By addressing the root of the problem, we came out stronger. If you ever find yourself in a similar situation, remember, the surface issue isn't always the real problem. Look deeper, and you may just find a solution that strengthens your relationship instead of breaking it.